In this latest EV update, rubbish! HiPhi and the Lords. What am I on about? Well, EVs to take away your rubbish, the longest cold weather range achieved by an EV that you never heard of. And while there's a landmark 1 million of them now on our roads, the Lords have spoken and more needs to be done to make them viable. I'll tell you everything right after this.
A brown car guy.
Electric rubbish. Well, I mean rubbish trucks, that is. Have you ever heard of Lunaz? Well, Lunaz has been converting high-end and vintage cars to electric. Things like old Aston Martins and an ex-Sophia Loren Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud. Well, from the sublime to the refuse. Does that work? Because another thing that they do is they upcycle rubbish trucks to electric power. And these have now just been greenlit to be rolled out across London Borough Councils. So watch out for them. They'll be watching out for you, that's for sure, because each one of them is equipped with a bunch of camera and monitoring tech to help drivers see all around the vehicle from all angles. Anyway, let's dump that story and move on to the next one. See what I did there? Quite a contrast, this thing, huh? This is the HiPhi Z. And it's been breaking records for the greatest EV range in the coldest conditions. Now, first up, and I've mentioned this car before, this thing looks amazing. I mean, the adult in me is saying it's too fussy with too many lines and too many angular bits, but the kid in me wants one because it looks like something out of a science fiction movie, and its low slung wide stance and sharp lines just make it look really mean. So anyway, back to the serious story. In a test that was conducted in cold weather conditions by the Norwegian Automobile Federation and Motor Magazine, it was aimed to establish the industry standard for electric vehicle range and charging speed. In that test, this car won. Out of the 23 participants, only one car had a deviation of less than 10% from the certified WLTP ranges, and the HiPhi Z actually only had a 5.9 deviation from that. It beat all of its rivals with a 324-mile range achieved, beating off cars which actually had a higher claimed mileage. Apparently, it's down to a revolutionary efficient thermal management system that's developed in-house by parent company Human Horizons. Yes, that's actually what it's called. And yes, it is a Chinese company based in Shanghai. So it came out ahead of everyone, like I said, losing only 5.9% of the claimed WLTP range. But how did the others do? Well, here's the top 10. Second was the BMW i5, losing 12.2%. Third was the Lotus Electra. That lost 12.3%. Fourth was the Kia EV9 at 12.5%. Fifth, Xpeng G9. What's that? Anyway, 13.1%. NIO EL6, 13.8%. NIO ET5 Touring, 14%. Mercedes EQE 350 4MATIC, that was 18.7%. Then you had the Audi Q8 e-tron Sportback in 9th place at 20.1%, and in 10th place was the BYD Dolphin, that was down 20.6%. So how did Tesla do? It was 19th in this list, losing 29.9% of range. In fact, it was beaten by the Ford F-150 Lightning, the MG4, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, the Hyundai Kona EV, and Nissan Ariya, the Jeep Avenger, and even the Opel Astra ST. So how's the market actually doing in general for EVs? Well, according to the SMMT, the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders here in the UK, Britain's 1 millionth EV was actually registered during January this year in 2024, and that's since records began. Nearly 21,000 EVs were registered in January, and that was up by 21% year on year. The EV market share for the month in January grew by 14.7% compared to last year, but this is below the full year share for 2023, which is that EVs were basically 16.5% of the market. So this does not bode well for the ZEV mandate. Remember, dealers and car makers have to hit 22% EV sales this year. You can see my separate video on that. So what's going on? Well, they've been thinking and talking about this, or about EVs, in the House of Lords. And they've just published a House of Lords Environmental and Climate Change Committee report. The summary of the report warns that progress is not happening fast enough, stating that EVs make up about only 3% of all cars currently on UK roads. EVs are still more expensive than their petrol and diesel counterparts. The availability of public charge points across the UK is highly variable. Many consumers face considerable anxiety around whether and where they will be able to charge EVs reliably, affordably, and quickly. There needs to be clearer communication and more leadership from the government on the matter of EVs. The concern the government expressed about the scale of misinformation has not been matched by commensurate urgency in tackling it. Basically, they're saying that faced with conflicting claims and alarmist headlines, consumers need a go-to source of comprehensive, clear, and balanced information so they can make informed decisions about their vehicles. You mean like the brown car guy? Hey guys, I'm here for you. So what were their recommendations in this report? Well, here we go. Tackle the disparity in upfront costs between electric and petrol and diesel cars by introducing targeted grants to support consumers buying affordable models. So they're agreeing, I guess, that the UK was too quick to scrap plug-in grants and subsidies that did used to exist for people that wanted to buy EVs. We continue. Turbocharge the charging infrastructure rollout by reviewing outdated and disproportionate planning regulations and tackling delays in the rollout of key public funding programs. Yeah, they definitely need to improve the infrastructure, standardize it, make it more accessible to everyone, and they need to do this very, very quickly. So let's continue. Ensure charging is reasonably priced, convenient, and reliable, and by equalizing VAT rates for domestic and public charging. Yeah, now this is a big issue right now. They really need to put public charger rates at the same 5% VAT rate as it is for home charging. Because let's face it, not everyone has a drive and a smart charger at home. And all the while that it costs the same to charge an EV as it does to fill up a petrol car, I'm afraid it's going to be a losing argument for the EV, especially as it's quicker to fill up a petrol car. Let's continue with it. Invest in UK recycling to ensure that recycling is undertaken by responsible operators and that the UK is able to recoup as many of the critical materials contained in EV batteries as possible for its own domestic production. That's an interesting one actually, and is key to the idea of reducing the carbon footprint of brand new EVs. Build them where you need them, and that includes the batteries. As we know, there's a huge carbon footprint involved in sourcing the raw materials for an EV, in making the batteries and transporting the batteries and getting the cars made and then transporting the cars. So that's a really good idea actually. So there you go. That's the latest update on EVs. Mostly positive news, but there are some things there that need to be addressed, and I think that report does need to be read by a lot of people, and certainly that 5% VAT needs to be looked at. Anyway, I'd love to hear your comments below. I'll catch you on the next video.
In London streets, where politics and power collide, The Lunaz Files by Brown Car Guy is a thrilling new novel depicting a high-stakes battle for the roads. Join Max Turner, a motoring journalist, as he uncovers a plot to control car ownership and personal liberties. With agent Eleanor Rodriguez and tech genius Flux Jackson, they race against time through London's iconic streets. It's a narrative that questions the balance between environmental policies and individual rights. For fans of cars, action, and political intrigue, The Lunaz Files promises high-speed chases, tactical ingenuity, and a fight for justice. Available now, exclusively on Amazon.com. The Lunaz Files by Brown Car Guy. Get your copy today.
Brown Car Guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.